Well guys, we're back working on the steering system on the FJ40. Now, I know you guys probably saw a video from a while ago when I was trying to figure out how to get this thing to work faster, and I got it working better, but now that we're actually out and able to play around with this rig, I definitely need it faster. It's got plenty of power, it's just slow. There's like resistance in the wheel. So there's something in this system causing a restriction. Now, I've had people say that it's a hydro boost unit. I've had people say lines. I've had people say the steering box. It could be a pump. It could be so many things. And I know some of you gonna comment, just put a better system on it. Well, I gotta figure out what's actually causing the restriction, because if it is a steering box, that's a big problem, because I can't find anybody that like high flows them, reports them or anything. So if that's the case, I'm not sure what we're gonna do. But if the hydro boost unit is causing a restriction, there is people that do high flow on those. If we do need a better pump, we can always get a PSC pump that flows a little better. I've already downgraded the ram to 1.5 inch ram from 1.75 inch. That helped about just a little bit, but it did help a little bit. So I think what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna pull basically all the fittings off of this system and make sure I don't have a fitting with a really small orifice. It's all 6 AN lines, which some people say you need 8. I don't know, some people say you need 8 on full hydro and 6 on hydro assist, which I am hydro assist. I think 6 is gonna be fine, but I wanna check all the fittings and make sure I don't have a fitting that is just one fitting that's too small in the pressure line will cause this problem. So what we're gonna have to do, get all the fluid out of here, pull all these fittings apart. And if that doesn't do anything, I bought a fitting that I can, on my high pressure line where it runs through the hydro boost unit, I'm gonna put a fitting on those lines to just put them together and just bypass the hydro boost. That will tell me if the hydro boost unit is actually restricting it. If that still isn't the problem, I'm kind of leaning towards either a pump or a box. I might put a better PSC pump on it. I've already modded this pump to create more pressure and more flow with just drilling a fitting out. So I've done that, and that did help quite a bit. But like I said, if it's a box, we got issues because I can't find a high flow box. And actually what I did do already is I pulled the ram off. I just capped the lines off of the actual steering box, and it was way faster. It felt like stock. So obviously we have an issue with not supplying enough flow of fluid to the entire system. Well, basically to the ram, because the ram is slowing it down, obviously, because it takes a ton of fluid. So we need to figure out what is causing a restriction in the steering system. All right, we got this thing all apart, and I did pull these off too. I measured the inside diameter of these fittings. These ones are good to go. There is a couple fittings here that I think I don't think it's the whole issue, but I think it may be contributing. These are aluminum, which I don't know why I bought aluminum. Obviously on high pressure stuff like this, you want steel like this one, and you can see the difference in diameter here. This one it measures right at 1/4 inch, 0.25 inches. This steel one measures 0.29. Those ones off the box there are also steel, and they're both 0.29 as well. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna buy all new fittings for these. These are all measuring 1/4 inch. You can see, I mean, you can just visually see a difference in that diameter. So I don't know if that's a whole issue, but I feel like it is contributing to the problem. Plus, like I said, I don't know why I bought aluminum. I should have known better to buy steel fittings. So I'm gonna go find some steel ones, but for now, I'm gonna put it all back together. I got a couple other tests to do. Like I said, I want to route both of these high pressure lines together, bypassing the hydro boost unit. Also, what I'm gonna try is, instead of running my return line out through the cooler and then I have a filter right here, I'm gonna run the return line straight from the box to the reservoir, and I'm gonna just to try it, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna put those together. All right, for now, what we're gonna test is just bypassing the hydro boost. So we got this funky looking fitting because those hoses were turned down. Then we got the return line run straight from the steering box up to the reservoir. So that's gonna eliminate the power steering cooler and the filter and the hydro boost. So after we bleed it, if our steering works like it should and it's got the speed, we know it's either the hydro boost, the filter, or that cooler. So we can start our process of elimination there. All right, so we topped off the reservoir. Now we're just gonna do a quick start and shut it off. And it's just to cycle that pump, get some fluid moving, and then we'll top it off, do that a couple times, and then we'll turn the steering wheel from lock to lock and bleed this whole steering system. All right, it still doesn't feel much better, but I still want to throw it on the ground and just see how it responds with weight on the tire. Just because I'm at this point, I'm just gonna try it and see what it feels like. Yep. Feels just like before, so that didn't change much at all. Well, that pretty much confirms the hydro boost, the cooler, and the filter aren't causing a restriction because it feels identical to how it felt before. So sounds like we're dumping some money into it. Obviously, I don't want to swap this steering box. That's the last thing I'm gonna do. So I think I'm gonna go research pumps, find a pump that flows a little bit more fluid. PSC actually sells a separate pump with a remote reservoir setup that you can, for one, mount higher. For two, it's a lot bigger than the factory reservoir, so it holds a lot more fluid. So I think that might be what we have to do. Like I said, I'm gonna go do a little research and figure out what we're doing, order some parts up. All my new fittings are gonna be coming in, so we'll be able to swap that out. All right, boys, we got in all of our parts. I already opened this up, make sure we got everything, but here's all of our fittings here. Bunch of different fittings. Control valve we actually don't need because that's on the new pump, but everything else is here. We got all the hose fittings for 12 AN. Yeah, 12 AN for the feed from the reservoir to the pump. All of our high flow fittings that were on the hydro boost unit that were like smaller inside diameter, so those should help out. Got our stickers. This is our 12 AN line, 6 AN line, and then a couple other fittings in here. And then we got the pump and reservoir. Let's check this out. I really freaking hope this fixes our issue, because if this doesn't fix it, that means it's the pump or the steering box. And well, that's not going to be very fun because it was so much work to get that box to work. We'll have to cut the whole mount off the frame. We'd have to find another box that even somewhat fits, and then cut the mounts off, remake all the mounts, all the steering, everything. I mean, it's so much work, but there's the pump. This is, like I said, the Saginaw P pump with a external setup on the back. So typically the pump that's on there right now has a big reservoir that's sitting on the pump, which kind of sucks because that pump's down low, everything else is up higher. You want the reservoir, the highest spot, to bleed all the air out. Got a mount. I went with the black one. This thing actually looks really sick. It's gonna spice up the engine bay a little bit more, and I think I'll really like it in there. So this is one of the smaller ones. He said this thing is gonna be plenty of fluid. Really, really nice setup here. I'm so stoked to get this on. So what we gotta basically do is rip the stock pump off, through the new pump on, and then we gotta find a good spot to mount this higher up. We want this as high as we can get, like I said. Well, my original plan of mounting the reservoir down here is not gonna work. There's just not enough room. These fittings are just way too long. It's just not gonna work there. So I think I have just barely enough room to mount this thing right up in here. So I got the bracket on it. I'm just gonna build another bracket and just bolt it to this lip here. Put some nice Allens up top. You won't see them anyway, but nice little spot right there. It's the highest in the engine bay, which is what you want. You want the reservoir higher than anything else. And that's about the only other spot. I really don't want to put it over on this side just because all my lines are over here, and it's just gonna work the best when it's next to everything else. So let's build a little bracket for that, mount that up, and everything else is good. Well, we made a mess anyway. I was trying to fill the thing up while it was running. The pump started making noise, so I was dumping it in real quick, and then it just started foaming up. All the air coming out of the system foamed up in the reservoir. Made a big freaking mess. So I gotta clean that up, and then we'll get this thing bled. Well, I think that new pump did the trick. Check this out. This thing is much faster, and it's so much easier to turn. I mean, I couldn't turn that fast, no way, before. I think that pump did the trick. All right, guys, if you watched the last video when we were out playing around in the snow in the FJ, we got stuck, and I didn't have anywhere to winch to, and I didn't have any of these traction boards, and some other guy came up with a set of these traction boards and made me realize I needed some. So I picked these ones up. These are a little bit smaller of a board, but these hopefully are going to be able to mount inside of the FJ. So I decided a set of these are definitely going to be nice if you're out by yourself playing around and you get stuck in especially snow because you just sink in it. These are super nice because these help you get back up on top of the snow, and especially if you don't have anywhere to winch to, these are very handy. Now, it might be tricky to mount up. I'm not sure. This looks like a little carrying case for it. If worse comes to worse and we can't mount them, like bolt it in or mount it up to the roll cage or something, we can always throw them in this bag and then just throw them in the back somewhere. So my game plan was, or at least where I measured, is we may be able to squeeze them in right here. Honestly, I don't even know if I want to really mount those up solid right there. It might just pay to throw them in that bag because it's such a tight fit. They're not going to go anywhere. Well, I think that's gonna work. Boards right here, out of the way. I mean, it's a nice spot for them. They aren't really, I mean, they come up to the edge of the seat, but this seat is all the way back against the roll bar right now. So obviously that's gonna be just fine right there. I'm not even gonna bother mounting them up. Plus, it's just gonna be easier and quicker to get them out instead of unbolting them from the mounts. Well, I haven't driven the truck yet, but so far that steering is much better. It's much quicker and honestly feels more powerful too. But before we go drive it, I want to do something that I've been meaning to do, and we're gonna fix this issue right here. That's right, not really an issue, but it's so annoying. That fuel pump, it's a Walbro pump, and that thing, they're kind of known for being loud. I didn't think it'd be that loud, but being right underneath the seat, it's very annoying. Today we're gonna throw in this pump. This is a DW255, I believe, and this one, these are supposed to be way quieter than those Walbros. So we're gonna rip out that pump, throw this one in, and hopefully this solves our issue, because like I said, this pump gets so annoying. It's so loud. Well, we're together enough to do a little test run on the pump, so let's flip the key on and see what it does. Oh my gosh, did you guys even hear that? Let's flip it on one more time. That thing is freaking quiet. That's what I'm talking about. That pump is so much quieter than the Walbro. Let's get this thing all back together 100% and go driving. All right guys, let's see how this pump sounds with it running. So much quieter already. It's running, but I cannot hear it. I barely can hear it. It's almost just like a light buzz. I'll put the microphone down there. You probably can't even hear that. Let's go for a rip and see how it is. And we also gotta check out the steering. All right, first impression on steering, definitely quicker. It's definitely much better than it was. I mean, the only other thing to do would be to swap the steering box, which would be an absolute crap ton of work because, like I said, they don't make like a better IFS Toyota box, at least that I could find. So you'd have to swap to like a Ford or a Saginaw, Chevy, something box that flows better, which would be, like I said, an absolute crap ton of work. Plus this, I can live with this. This is not bad at all. It's much better than before. So I think we won. We got a quiet pump that you can actually hear yourself thinking here. I mean, that old pump was louder than the engine just because it's inside and you're sitting right on top of it. It was so obnoxious. This one, I mean, it's just kind of a light buzz. You can barely hear it. Much better in here. Well guys, we won this one. That fuel pump is so much better than the Walbro, and steering also is much better. I think if you were to do anything else at this point, it would be to swap to just a full hydraulic system instead of the hydro assist. That would be a ton more work and a ton more money. And honestly, with how this is working right now, I have no complaints with it. But if you want it lightning fast, you would have to go to full hydro. I'm gonna leave it. It's perfectly fine now. Before, like I said, it was just a little slow. Now with that better pump, that just gave it just a little more power and a little more speed. It's much better now. Well, that just about wraps up the FJ unless we go out and break it. So now we can finally focus on this truck. We've done one video on it so far, at least since I put this video out. And we got a ton of work to do. I got a bunch of parts on the way. I've been waiting for some stuff. It should be here soon so we can dive into this thing. And I got all my suspension plans, my engine plans, everything kind of planned out. Now that the FJ is done, I'm happy with it. Now we can focus on this truck. Well, anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Why don't you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.